Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So as you can see from the title here, I am testing out masking fluid for the very first time. I'm using my Windsor and Newton masking fluid. It was just one I picked up from Hobbycraft just to test out and just see how it goes. I'm also using my Windsor and Newton designer gouache, not because it's Windsor and Newton, but simply because that was the best range of blues that I had. My Reeves gouache set doesn't have the best range of blue paint, and I'd recently got some of the Windsor and Newton gouache, so I thought, why not give that a test out with the masking fluid. So what I'm doing is laying down the masking fluid using a really cheap brush. I do recommend this because I found it completely wrecked my paintbrush, but thankfully I was using a brush that I picked up from the works, which if you live in the UK you know what it is, and if you don't, it's basically a really cheap arts and crafts shop where you can also pick up like books and things, and it is all dirt cheap. So what I'm doing here is I'm trying to do more of a watercolour technique where you lay down a layer of just clear water and then overlay that with the colour. This causes the spreading out that you're seeing with the paint going onto the water there, and it creates a nice effect, as I wanted this to actually be a water background for a portrait that I'm going to be working on soon, but I wanted to practice the background first. So the idea of using masking fluid actually came from another YouTuber called, I'm going to probably butcher the name again, it's Kellogg's Loops. And he does amazing watercolour pieces, really beautiful, and he's recently had another solo show, and it's amazing artwork. And what he does to get the clean, crisp lines in his artwork, he does use masking fluid. So I thought I really wanted to give this a try for the water piece that I was doing, because I wanted to have a background that shows that where the image is under the water, but also giving a sense of movement with the water. And I thought to do that it would be nice to use the plain white of the background, but because of the wet on wet technique that I want to do where it spreads everywhere, masking fluid seemed like the best idea to create areas where the paint just couldn't touch. So I did find trying to apply it quite difficult, because obviously it's the first time using it. I didn't know whether to apply it very thinly or quite thick, so you'll kind of see me trying to test out both. And as you'll see as the video goes along, you'll notice that the designs that I'm doing for the masking fluid get progressively more difficult. So the first one started out with some very basic lines, second one started doing more connecting designs, but again still very basic, and then the third one I'm coming up with more circular movements, doing smaller parts of masking fluid just to see if that would still work. And then the final one that you'll see is a bit more complex, of me trying to do some little fish, which was actually really fun. So I enjoyed doing this with the Windsor and Newton colours. They were really vibrant for this effect, mainly only the 4 different blues. I'll have those listed below, mainly because I can't remember them off the top of my head. But yeah, and the only thing that was frustrating with this is I had to wait for the masking fluid to dry between each layer. I found out very quickly that if I didn't let it dry, then the masking fluid then mix with the paintbrush I was using for the gouache, and that was starting to wreck that paintbrush that I was using, which wasn't great. But thankfully I was still using my cheaper brushes for this exercise because I wasn't sure how it would go. So definitely when you're putting down masking fluid, let it dry first and use old brushes, and you actually don't need that much masking fluid. I noted if you put on too thick a layer, it would take a lot longer to dry, and later on when you see me peeling off the masking fluid, you'll notice that if you layer it too thickly, it can then start ripping the paper underneath, and then that lifts up the layer of paint that you've just done, ruining the whole work. So be very careful with the amount you're going to use. Something I'm going to practice. Oh, this is where the cat comes in to say hello. I think he was very interested, although I had to keep stopping him from drinking the water that I was using to clean my paintbrushes. He just couldn't quite understand that he's not supposed to drink that one. But it kept me company for a little while, which was quite fun. But yeah, so now I'm starting to do the fish. This was actually quite difficult. I'm going to have a look and do a bit of research onto how best to apply masking fluid, whether a paintbrush is the best idea or not, because what I was finding is the paintbrush was getting really dry and brittle, making it really hard to use. And so those smaller fish designs that I really wanted to do, I actually found quite difficult. So that's something I need to do, and just focus in on, yeah, just a better way to use this masking fluid and how to apply it. Leo is having quite a bit of fun just watching me paint. He kept attacking my paintbrush at some point as well, so that was quite fun. But yeah, so getting on to the last one. Overall, I'm enjoying the process of this, and I was enjoying the masking fluid. I quite liked the abstract colours in the background that I was able to get from designing a underwater world. But coming up is going to be where I'm trying to get rid of all that masking fluid that had dried. But again, as you can see, if you notice on the back couple of fish, where the masking fluid seemed darker, that's where it had started to crack and bleed through, so that wasn't helpful. So this is me attempting to take off masking fluid. So I wasn't really sure how to do this. On the bottle it said you could just use your finger and literally just gently rub it and it will lift, and that did work, but I wanted to see if I could get something a little bit better for the smaller areas, because I didn't want to be rubbing off all the paint. So I tried using a little rubber that I have here. It's actually in the shape of a lipstick. My sister got it for me. It was quite cool. And so I'm trying to, did you see there? The paper ripped slightly, so you have to be really careful. And that was honestly because that was the part that had the most masking fluid. So that was definitely something to work out for. But yeah, back to using the rubber. The rubber worked really well. It was a good way to lift it off, made it a lot easier than just trying to use my fingers. Again, I'm going to look into if there's any better ways, and I'll update you if I manage to find anything. At the moment, the rubber seems to be doing the best job. I actually really liked how these fish came out, but again, you can see that one where the masking fluid hadn't dried 100%, you can see I've just kind of made a mess of that fish, and it's not come out at all. It's more of just a grainy blob. And on a couple of the fish, you can see where the paper has started to lift, where the masking fluid stuck to it again. So definitely be careful with the amount of masking fluid you're applying, and do test this medium out before you go on to any finalised pieces, which I'm sure you know anyway, but if you're anything like me and can be a bit impatient, I still recommend testing this out first. Well, that's pretty much it. We've come to the end of this video. There's me trying to take off my washi tape. I was so excited because it didn't rip the page until this point. And then it started ripping as per usual. I really must remember to stop using this. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if there's anything I missed or any questions that you have. Otherwise, I'll catch you in the next episode. Look after yourself until then.